You've tuned in to MAN2MAN360, the show for men by men, dealing with all subjects. The twist here is we come from a biblical worldview to encourage and empower men to make it in life through the power of Jesus Christ.
Alright. Real talk. Chopping it up. Men talking about everything you're talking about. Sometimes it's cool, and sometimes it's heated. This is Man2Man 360.
Hey, I'm your host, DARYL Anderson, and this is Man2Man 360 and a brand new episode. We're really excited on this episode here because I brought back my friend and guest from last week, Waymon Daniels of the Level Up Podcast, and we are going to go into a really cool topic, which I think is going to be a fun one. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. But before we go there, as usual, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to go to man2man360.com. That's man360.com. And there's where you can follow and subscribe to our podcast. Listen, if you really want to support us, the only way you can is to actually follow and subscribe to the podcast, download the podcast, share the podcast, comment on your podcast app or whatever you use. Give us the 5 stars if you're using Apple Podcasts, or if you're using Spotify, then you can share it and everything else. Each one of these things is the only way that we even know you're supporting us. So we ask you to do that. Now, if you're listening to us on ourspirit.online, that's another awesome way because at least there in Our Spirit, we know that we got so many people listening to the show. But we also want you to support us at man2man360.com. So check us out. And I'm going to get ready to introduce my friend here again, Waymon Daniels of Level Up Podcast. Waymon, you there?
I'm here, Daryl. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And listen, today the topic is happy wife, happy life. Is that true or false? And we're going to go diving into that in just a second. So listen, we are now, this episode you're listening to right now is episode 99. 99. Next week is our 100th episode of Man2Man 360. That's an exciting time, and we have a live episode coming up next week that we want you to check out. Also, too, next week you're going to see a live stream, which is going to be really cool, and you can check that out at ourspirit.online Facebook page. When you go there, and also maybe some other places on Facebook, you'll be able to catch that live stream of us there, and we're going to be doing some fun things live in a live setting with an audience and a lot of our special guests and everybody in the audience and that kind of cool stuff. So cool stuff. Well, listen, Waymon, let's get ready to go into the show. Again, it's happy life, happy wife. I dropped this with Waymon about a couple of hours ago, sort of almost like a little test and say, hey, what you think? And he didn't, I don't even think he realized I was going to pull him into another podcast, but that's exactly what we did. And so let's jump in. So, Waymon, happy wife, happy life?
Yes, that's when you asked me the question, I knew it was like a two-edged sword. It has 2 points. Mm-hmm. It depends on how you look at it, because if you look at it from one perspective, that if the wife is happy, you do have a happy home.
Yes.
And as I was talking to you earlier, men tend to think that we are the head, but it seems like the woman is more the head than we are in certain situations. Mm-hmm. And so I believe it to a degree. I do believe that, but there's another side to it.
There is.
And as we go further, we'll find out what that other side is.
There is another side to it. You know, I do believe that a happy wife is a happy life. I believe that statement is true. It's just not whole by itself, because anytime you have two people, it's always good. What I say in my home, I said, a happy family, happy life, because you know, as long as everybody's happy, there shouldn't be any problems here. Because what happens is, and for all the maybe younger guys, or maybe less mature or whatever, who thinks that you're going to get into a marriage or a relationship with someone, a woman, and you think I'm going into this to see what I can get from it.
Right.
That's not the right way to go
That's
in.
right.
You want to piggyback on that real quick?
Well, you know what? And when we talk about getting married or even looking at someone to marry, we first have to get the data.
Yep.
To make sure that the data fits where we're trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Daryl, if I'm not happy in my singleness, I'm not ready to be married. Because if I'm not happy being single, but I'm looking for someone to fulfill my loneliness, then I'm getting married for the wrong reason. Because I need to be content in being lonely.
Yep.
And then get married.
Yeah.
But not seeking someone to fulfill my loneliness, because we got it backwards now. I want to get married, man, because I'm lonely. Well, you're getting married for the wrong reasons.
Right. Right. You know, that I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a super interesting point, but it's also a true one, because there's something about because what you're doing, you're setting yourself up for someone else to fulfill you.
That's right.
And I know for some of you out there, maybe a lot of you do get it, but a lot of you probably don't get it, both men and women.
Right.
That if we're looking for someone else to fulfill us,
yes,
you're guaranteed to be disappointed.
You're guaranteed. You're absolutely right. Because, and then if I'm looking for someone to fulfill me, because you hear this is what I hear a lot of people say this, Daryl. Oh man, I found my other half.
Ooh, see, you hitting, man, you got my notes somewhere. You go ahead. You done got the notes now. Go ahead.
Well, if you need someone else to make you whole, then you're still missing half.
Yep.
Because I'm going into the relationship, if that's my other half, I'm only giving 50%. So where's the other 50%?
Right.
They got this saying 80-20 and all this other nonsense. I'm like, wait a minute, man. They're still not adding up. Because I look at it, Daryl, but see, this is what society teaches us through these various, we were talking the other day about the media, and the media and television is nothing but a medium. And medium always feeds you false information.
Always.
And so if I'm eating false information, I start to believe the false information instead of believing the true information, which is the word of God. I need to be complete within myself before I even think about having a relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so much so that even when we look at Adam, let's look at the first man. I mean, Adam was not God didn't create part man, half man. He created a full man. Why? Well, how do we know that? Well, first of all, that man had a purpose.
Yes.
That man had a job. That man had a work. Maybe maybe people don't like the word job. Okay, fine. But he did have a work.
Yes.
And that work was to what? Cultivate the garden.
That's right.
And to name animals.
That's right.
That means now the naming animals, you can do that for so long until you named all the animals, but then the cultivating the garden part that's until you die. Or if we were supposed to live forever at that point, then when do you not cultivate a garden?
Yeah.
So he had his purpose, not just in that garden, but really for the whole earth at that point. So this was a fulfilled man. And as long as he was obeying God, he was also a godly man who obeyed the Lord.
Right.
And so, that's what we're operating
with.
Right. And to the point to where
no. I like go to the point. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say to the point to where it took God to have to say, "This ain't good."
That's right.
That man be alone. Then God had to fulfill and put this woman in his life, because he saw that Adam was doing his will of naming animals, taking care of that garden, and fulfilling his will. And then God said, okay, well, I gotta bless him.
Man, Daryl, man, I don't know why you keep doing this, because you said something that was so powerful, because Adam was busy fulfilling his purpose and his call. And by him being busy doing what God called him to do, then God, like you just said, then God saw that it wasn't good for him to be alone. Adam didn't even recognize that he was alone because he was too busy doing what God told him to do. So when we're talking about a happy wife and a happy life, and then what benefits do I get in being married, or what can I gain from being married? If I'm looking at it from that perspective, I don't already lost the game because I'm looking at it from a carnal perspective. Because if I look at it from a biblical perspective, I have to understand if I'm doing what God called me to do, I'm going to be prepared for that woman that he's going to bring outside of my rib, which is my side. That's my divine aid, which is my helpmeet. He's going to bring her to me or show her to me or put her in my spirit. Man, that's going to be a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so for everybody who's thinking that, well, okay, for God's will and God's purpose, that sounds churchy and all that. Well, hold on now, hold on. See, everything that God creates. So let's talk about nature for a minute. So for some reason, people think that nature and God is two separate things, and it's not. Everything that God creates was nature. So he created the earth. That's natural. That's nature. When people talk about, oh, look at nature. Well, okay, you're talking about the stars. You're talking about the sun, the moon. You're talking about the sky, the clouds, the blue sky. Then you're talking about the water and the rivers and the mountains. And then you're talking about the animals and everything else. So everything God creates is nature and is natural. All right. So if man is walking in God's will, the right way, he's walking in God's perfect nature of, so when we eat, things we eat are healthy and all that. So Adam had to eat the right things and all that kind of cool stuff. So now, what am I getting at? So some of y'all say, yeah, but what about the sexual part? That is natural.
That's right.
And that is good because God created it for husband and wife.
That's right.
But see, the greed part of lust, of where people coming today is saying, okay, listen, I want to marry her because I need to get this from her. Well, that's right then. Now the perspective just got messed up.
That's right.
Because see, so now the perspective is let me see what I can get from her, and that same and you correct me if I'm wrong, but that same mindset is where people go into marriages to say, okay, let me see what I can get from him, or let me see what I can get from her, whether it be sex or money, or they got a nice position, I can live in a nice house, or I can get stuff from them, and you're gonna have a hard time pleasing anybody.
Well, Daryl, when you were talking about nature and God, you can't separate the two, because if you take a fish out of its natural environment, which is water, he's going to die. If you take a plant out of its natural environment, which is the soil, it's going to die. If you take man out of his natural environment, which is God, he's going to die. So if you're trying to have a marriage outside of God, it might seem like it's flourishing in the physical or in the fleshly realm, but in the spiritual realm, it's going to die because you don't have the spiritual principles, or you're not in the presence of God for that marriage to be everything that it should be. It's going to be lacking something. So it won't grow, but through the natural eye, it might look like it's growing. And so this is what we have to be careful of in the church, because the world system and society has taught us to look at things from the physical perspective. When I look at a woman, I look at her physicality first, and I objectify her without even getting to know her as a person. I'm always attracted to the physical, excluding the spiritual. But if we go back to the basics and learn who she is as a person and the spiritual aspect of her, and then the physical would come with marriage. But now, man, it's like, let's get physical first, and I learn about you and Jesus Christ later on. And so then you all messed up. Then when you procreate and have children, they coming out with the same belief system that you got. And then when they do something that you don't like, man, then you got the nerve to get upset with them. But it all started by the foundation that you laid in the beginning of your relationship with your spouse or your significant other. You put down the wrong foundation and started courting through the flesh instead of putting it down from a biblical principle. So nature and God has to be according to the because God's principles don't change. It's man's principles that change. And Daryl, Let me
That's
say
right.
this because when you're talking about Adam, man, when God came looking for Adam, God knew where Adam was at because, see, Adam had changed his position. God never changed his position. See, we change our position and expect God to change his position, and that's never going to happen. So we need to get back and start doing what we need to start doing, and it's just naming and claiming. And what I mean by that is just speak the word of God and stand on it.
We'll pick up from there right after this. We hope you've been enjoying MAN2MAN360 live radio shows. Check us out every Thursday at 8 p.m., Saturday 8 a.m., and Tuesday at noon. Our goal here is to encourage and empower men to make it in life, and we hope to do that every week. We now have a YouTube page, so subscribe to both our podcast and YouTube. Access all of this on our new website. Visit us at man2man360.com. That's man2man360.com. There you'll be able to catch shows you may have missed and have access to exclusive interviews, as well as extended shows edited down for radio due to time. But keep listening live here every week at ourspirit.online.
Every time you turn us on.
Climbed up to the highest mountain. Looked all around, couldn't find nobody.
More variety of inspirations and praise.
There's no name, no Jesus name.
Ourspirit.online.
So you like the show so far, huh? Well, let us know by recording a shout out at man2man360.com. That's man, the number 2, man360.com. There you'll see a red mic. Click it and record your thoughts. That recording will air on an upcoming show. Go now.
All right, we're back. And again, I'm with my special guest, Waymon Daniels of Level Up Podcast. And we're talking about happy wife, happy life. And we gave you a lot of good, actually went way cooler and deeper than I originally expected it to go in the beginning. But now I want to bring out the part that I've always had, I won't say an issue with, but that I've always been watching as I watch this thing play out in real life. So it's always been said again, happy wife, happy life. And that's the goal. Well, if you listen to the first half of this podcast and you sort of understood that's not really the goal, it's really to please one another. And as we serve one another. But the dangerous part to me of saying happy wife, happy life means that it doesn't matter if that man is happy or not. And unfortunately, as a man, of course, I'm going to say, you're probably saying, well, yeah, of course you're going to say that because you're a man. Right. This is true. But the reason I'm really saying this is that's part of it too. But I've watched enough stuff in the news that when every time I see a house blow up,
yes,
and it got a bunch of people in it, they thought it was an accident because I know there was an incident. There was a family. This must have been about maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and the house blew up. And come to find out, the man set the house on fire, and he set the furnace on fire so that with that fuel, the house blew up like an explosion. He did that because he was not happy, and he killed I think it was the wife, but I know it was him and his kids.
Yes.
Recently in the news, there's this thing. I don't know if I know you, I'm not sure if you heard it, but it was, I forget where, and I should have had this ready. But anyway, it was a shooting, and it looked like there was this guy who was shooting a bunch of folk, and then there was I think a reporter and some other people, and then he left and came back and shot some people who was reporting on the incident. But it was all really, if unless I'm getting my stories mixed up, it was all really just to cover up the fact that he was going to kill his wife, and it wanted to make it look like a random shooting. You remember the DC sniper back in the day?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
The DC sniper, if most people remember that story, it sounded like it was random, but come to find out, the goal of what it was a brother, actually. It was a black man and his son.
Yes.
He brought, and they would just shoot people at gas stations and kill them. And they did it for weeks and weeks. And as a matter of fact, I was supposed to be going to DC, and I'm like, man, we might have to cancel this. I'm not going to get shot at.
Right.
Well, come to find out, they finally caught him literally a week before I was supposed to be there. And they found out that the goal was for him to cause enough hysteria that when he did shoot his wife, it would just look like it was the same guy random shooting. But the plan was to kill his wife all along, and just cover it up with the other people.
Right.
There's something about when men are not happy in relationships, bad stuff happen.
Man, DARYL, I go back and I think about Chris Benoit and how he killed it. He was a wrestler. And he killed his entire family. And everybody jumped on Chris Benoit for the physical killing, which is wrong. But then I go back to Zachary Timms. Pastor from Florida. Drug overdose in New York. And then you go to, let's just talk, since this is a Christian podcast. You have a lot of Christian men that are preaching, teaching, or even just laymen in the congregation. They're trying to shout over issues, but not addressing the issues. And they're killing not only their children spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, and their dreams and their ambitions in that way.
Yes, sir.
And we have this talk because when we were talking the other day about vulnerability, we pretend to be so tough and so hard. But the sad thing for me, DARYL, is that we get to a place where we want to be so strong and so macho that we try to carry everything by ourselves. And so we put on this fake facade and these many masks, we call them sub-personalities, subgroups, to cover up who we really are. But then we'd be afraid to go talk to someone because we're afraid that people are going to judge us. But then when we get to the place where we're afraid of what man is going to say or think about us because we hold a position, or we're making six figures and we got all this money, or whatever the case may be, the thing that's hindering you from doing it, we got to get away from that. Because it's causing us to commit spiritual suicide, natural suicide, and causing damage to our children and to our wives and to our families. And so we got to get to a place in being single in Jesus Christ and in God and comfortable in who we are. And say, you know what, man, I can't do it by myself. I need someone to talk to. I need someone to help me because I'm struggling with beating up my wife, cussing out my wife, with drinking, but yet I get up in the pulpit or do other things in the church that I'm saying that I'm not doing. But you know how many first ladies are hurting because they have no one to talk to because it's a false facade. We're going by an image. Again, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna close out and let you come in. We're just like the mannequin in the mall. We're wearing the clothing that someone else puts on us. We're wearing someone else's emotions and opinions and thoughts about us instead of being our original self.
So true. So true. So absolutely true. Because so one of the things we did mention that happens more than anything else is the other way it comes out in pain. Because you mentioned a couple of things there: abuse and alcohol and all these. But there's one other thing that's probably just as big, if not bigger. Adultery.
Exactly.
And so when I've ministered to or counseled a lot of guys where it's like, man, she just ain't giving it to me, or you know those conversations and
Right,
whatnot.
right.
And it's like, I might have to. I gotta do it. Like, bro, are you sure you gotta do this?
Right, right,
And trust me, listen, I get it, but that's not where we want to go.
That's
and so when that man is not happy, he's going to seek some destructive things to that relationship.
That's right.
Physically destructive, emotionally destructive, relationship. I mean, once you cheat, you're pretty much blowing up a relationship right there.
Right.
Forget about the furnace; you just blew the relationship up.
Right.
I mean, hey, listen. Matter of fact, David, David self-destructed.
He sure did. Yeah.
I mean, matter of fact, he blew up to some degree his ministry and everything else. Now, he's still a man after God's own heart. But once that Bathsheba thing took place, you haven't really heard too many conquests after that. Matter of fact, I don't think there were any.
Well, Daryl, you want to hear something crazy? Because BBD told us about that. Never trust a big butt and a smile. And see,
so we quoting BBD, okay?
David,
but it's true. It's
David
true.
should have known that, man.
David should have known it. He should have listened to Bell Bib the Bow. But it's true. It's true.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
No. That's cool. That's cool because it's true. And so we chase after. Now, for everybody listening, there is no. Let me speak for men. I can't speak for women.
Right.
There is no man exempt. Every man is tempted in some form or another in these ways.
That's right.
Because the lustful sides of us, the carnal sides of us, are not talking about, well, let me find what I can do for you. There's a part of each one of us, every believer, every bishop, everybody, that's like, well, hold on now, what can I take from you?
Right.
And in those times, unless we put under us, then we're going to walk in areas we know we shouldn't be in. And so now we're justified. Well, listen, I ain't happy.
Right.
Well, so you're saying you're not happy? Yeah, I ain't happy.
Right.
And so what you gonna do about it? Well, I got a couple things. And ain't there none of them right?
Right.
Ain't there none of them good?
Right.
And ain't there none of them godly or divine?
Right.
So we already know this. So all your options is evil.
That's right.
Every last one of them. So because he's not happy. Now, ladies, I'm not justifying nothing. We just putting some facts out there. We'll deal with the answer and solution in a second.
Right.
But we're just putting out there that the notion that happy wife, happy life, that's a good thing is not true.
Right.
Each one of us have to make sure we're taking care of the other person.
That's right.
Both in the youth, in the middle age, and then in our latter years, because it won't last the latter years.
That's right.
It's depending on what's happening here. So yeah, I think that as from a man perspective, yes, we should find ways to please and make our wives and our families.
That's
happy.
right.
But ladies, if you're listening, do the same. But now, for the guys, you're saying, yeah, but what about if she don't? Oh, okay. Now I think it goes back to what Waymon was saying earlier.
Yes.
About, before we were married, you still have to find, you still have to be whole.
That's right.
Before you find somebody. And this has to be, we have to go back to where Adam was before Eve came on, and we still have to have a relationship with the Father. Because I can't change the heart of my wife or anyone for that matter. But I can speak to the Father. Now, the king's heart is in his hand.
That's right.
So perhaps, maybe he can, but I have to serve him and I have to please him. I'll let you piggyback from there.
Well, man, my mind all over the place. I even went to Mary and Elizabeth, and how that when they came in the circumference of each other, the Bible says that John leaped in the womb. Now, you have to understand that a baby, when he's in the infancy stages or in that particular moment, he's not even conscious. He was in the subconscious state. On the subconscious level, he recognized who Jesus was.
Yeah.
But then later on, when he was conscious, when he became a young adult, he asked Jesus, "Art thou the Christ?" Hold on, man. So you mean to tell me that when I was in my subconscious, I recognized you, but when I became conscious, I didn't? That lets me know that my conscious and my subconscious must be on the same page. and see if I can get my subconscious or my conscious to relate to my conscious or my subconscious. In other words, I can't let my flesh change what I already know.
Right.
And this is where but then Daryl, is so crazy because we live in a society and see we're eating the wrong way. We allowed the world, the Bible says we're in the world, but not of the world. In other words, I can't let the world influence me.
Right.
I'm a kingdom citizen. I must influence the world, but I also must be influenced by God and his kingdom. So my thinking has to change the opposite of the way the world thinks. The world, here's a perfect example. Have you ever went into a restaurant and seen a table for one?
Actually, no.
You know why, right? Because the world is saying you can't live with, and be alone. You have to have someone in your life. But that's not true. If I'm enjoying my singleness and enjoying Jesus and doing what he called me to do, I can live alone. But they push a relationship. So, man, why do a 12 or 13-year-old girl or boy have to be in a relationship so early? What are they? Because the world system teaches them that.
Right.
And then sometimes I have the nerve to push that same indoctrination up on my children without even being aware of it. I'm like, yo, wait a minute. What are you teaching them? But then the cartoons are doing the same thing. So now you got a boy growing up that's not happy because he doesn't understand it's okay to be single.
Yep.
But then again, Daryl, let's define what is happiness. See, if you don't understand what happiness is, you can't never be happy. I don't care if you get married and you do have a happy wife. You're going to always, because you're still looking at that, you're looking at things from a child's perspective. Paul also says that when I wanted to give you meat, I had to go back and give you milk because you wasn't mature enough to handle meat.
That's right.
And then here's another thing too. This lets you know when we're still acting like children, because only boys go and start complaining and start huffing and puffing and kicking. She ain't doing what I want her to do, so I guess I go out here and get me somebody else. That's what a boy does. But a man would sit down and say, baby, let's sit down and talk. Let's pray together and let's get an understanding. This is what I need.
Right.
But see, I never forget, Daryl, I always talk about how people call you a henpecked man because you want to please and have a happy home. But it's not that if for those that are married, it's not that your wife is trying to change you. You should want to change to have a better relationship in your marriage. Change is it has to happen.
That's right. It's inevitable.
So when do we mature enough to understand that I can no longer live by the definition of the world system? Just because I don't get my way, I throw a temper tantrum and go get another woman, go get another man and do this and do that, or just storm out the house. Who does that?
For what? and see, and you're still not going to be happy. And matter of fact, and so let's deal with that word happy for a minute. Yeah. So happiness is so flighty.
Yes.
Because every day we hear people say, "Oh, I'm feeling so happy," or "I'm happy when," and then you find out that changes day by day. So wait a minute, you're happy because you got a new outfit. You're happy because you got a nice meal. You're happy because your favorite television show is on. You're happy because somebody did something for you. So that's flighty.
Yes.
And so if we're trying to, happy wife, happy life. Well, suppose, because we know that sometimes people are happy when they can punch the crap out of another guy.
Yes.
So what's going to make you happy, man? I'm gonna knock that.
Come on, exactly.
And whoa. So suppose what makes her happy is to gouge you of all your cash,
right,
and throw you away like piece of trash just to move on to another guy that you always wanted all along. Is happy wife, happy life the goal? The answer is no.
It's not.
Pleasing the Lord and having that family, that family that where we're serving one another, whether it brings us happiness or better yet, brings us some joy and some peace, and it fulfills the will of the Lord. Right. But happy, that's so flighty. I mean, today I'm happy because I don't know, I had a great meal, but then tomorrow, you bring that same food tomorrow. I ain't happy with that. You just had it yesterday. Well, I want it today. Right? Stop me when I'm lying.
Daryl, you know what, man? I'm sitting here, man, and it sounds like that if my happiness is determined by external things, then I'll never be happy.
You'll never be happy.
You'll never be happy because you need validation of this. You need external things to make you happy, and you'll never have inner peace. And can I say this to you? I told my mother I use her in a lot of my scenarios. And she said, "Yeah, keep my stuff out your mouth." But I said, "Mother, there's some great things. for those that don't know, I did 7 years in the state penitentiary.
Mm.
And when I was in the penitentiary, I had time to go to this island called Patmos, which was the Department of Corrections. And Daryl, I said to my mother, I said, why is it every time I call, it's always noise in the background and the TV is always on? I said, have you ever sat alone and just talked with the Lord and just spent some time without distractions?
Right.
My mother
Right.
told me, she says, no. I said, why not? She says, because then I have to deal with myself.
Mm.
A lot of people don't want to deal with themselves because they don't want to see themselves in the mirror.
Right.
And you will never get happy or be happy with self until you start looking in the mirror and start looking at your faults and your shortcomings. Because if you
Yeah.
look at them, that gives you the opportunity to change them. But if
That's
you
right.
don't look at them, you're going to stay flawed, and then you want someone else to tolerate your flaws, and everybody's not going to tolerate them. Daryl,
That's right.
before anything, man, I had to, and that's what God had to do. He says, I had to put you in a place so you can look at the things that you're doing to other people, but not only that, so you can look at the things that you're doing to yourself, but not only that, you can look at
That's
the
right.
things that you're doing to me.
That's right.
I had to take a holistic approach and look at. I'm like, yo, man, really, man, you got here because you were not happy. You were trying to be what everybody else wanted you to be. And look what
That's
it
right.
cost me. It cost me 7 years of my life. But it also cost,
Mm-hmm.
and I never forget Malcolm X said it so profoundly. It's not a shame to go to prison. The shame is going to
Mm-hmm.
prison, coming back the same way you came.
Ooh.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's not a shame to look at your life and
Yeah.
say, listen, man, I need to change my life. I need to be a better father, a better husband. I need to be better than I
Yep.
was yesterday.
Yep.
So I was talking to someone at church the other day, and they said, well, Waymon, you were talking about new beginnings. When do they start? I said, what time did you get up this morning? That's when your new beginning started.
Yep.
So
Brand new
every
mercy every
morning. So
morning.
what I did yesterday, the mistakes
Yep.
I made yesterday, I try not to do them today.
Yep.
So as a man that wants to be the best and be who God calls me to be, but Daryl, do I take the time to do extracurricular activities as far as studying my word of God and praying, so I can know the mind of God, so that I can submit to him
Yep.
and be who he truly called me to be. You can't get this by just reading your Bible once a week, or even listening to a word once a week,
Yep.
because the world system teaches us how to be a man the wrong way.
Right.
The world system teach you, man, don't show no emotions, don't be vulnerable, don't tell
Yep.
nobody you love them. If you tell them you love them, don't mean it. And well, here's one
Yep.
more thing, Daryl. I say this: a real man never talks about what he does for his family and throws it up in their face. You made a valid
Mm-hmm.
point the other day when you were talking. That was so profound. Love is when I go to work every day. Don't even say a word. 4:00 in the
Yep.
morning.
Yep.
Love is when I go out there and shovel that driveway. Love is just thinking about
Yep.
you. And here's something: just thinking about a relationship, it puts a smile on your face.
Yep.
So,
That's it.
come on, man. This is a.
Because you were at that point, you're
Mm-hmm,
self-sacrificing is the right word, but
mm-hmm,
no, yeah, I guess that's
mm-hmm.
the right word, because at this point, I'm not doing any of this
Come
for
on
me.
now. Come on. Right, right.
None of this was for me, and we
Yeah,
get
come on, Daryl.
pleasure when everybody is
That's right.
sleeping
That's right.
comfortable
Mm-hmm.
and warm in
That's right. That's
20-degree
right.
weather. Stop me when
No.
I'm lying.
Mm-hmm.
And you outside and the snow
Right.
blowing in your face and the
Right.
sickles all on your face
Right.
and beard and all that, and you know full well they're
Mm-mm-mm.
turning over comfortable, and you it's
Mm-mm-mm.
like that's a
Yes.
good feeling, because
Right.
I'm freezing, but I'm looking at, I realize the family is turning
That's
over,
right.
getting more rest, and they
Mm-hmm.
hear that thing outside, they
That's
sleep
right.
deeper.
That's right. Right.
They
Right.
sleep deeper
Right.
because they know they're being
That's right.
provided for.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's a
That's a good
good
place.
place
Mm-hmm.
when I know that I'm being
Mm-hmm.
provided for
That's
from
right.
my father. You know, so I don't have to worry like the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sparrows. It's a
That's right.
good feeling when I know, okay, well, shoot, I'm
That's
being
right.
provided for. I'm
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
taken care of. I have
That's
no
right.
lack and
That's
no
right.
need
Mm-hmm.
for nothing, and that's
That's
how our
right.
families feel when we get up, because we're complete. What did Jesus
Mm-hmm.
gain by dying on the cross, getting
Right.
beat and spit on?
Nothing.
Truthfully, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing. He sacrificed everything for
That's
somebody else.
That's right.
For us. I mean, while I was yet a sinner,
For me.
Christ died for me.
Nothing.
And he got nothing.
That's right.
I mean, he got nothing. So if we want to walk upright like him, we're sacrificing to please the whole family, our kids, wife, in-laws, and I mean anybody under our care. And we know we're being provided. There's a pleasure in that. I might not be happy in 0-degree weather outside there, but there's a pleasure and a joy knowing that I am providing and protecting and making them feel well.
You know, Daryl, I was thinking about this. I tell you, I was thinking about when you were saying when Jesus died, what did he get out of it? And I look at him, and when they nailed him to the cross, they put the spikes not in his hand. They put it in his wrist. Yeah. And when you put a spike or anything in your wrist, it keeps you from moving. You can't move your hand. And the reason that they did that, because Jesus had power in his hand. He was still healing the sick and raising the dead with his hand. And they didn't want him to do no more work or do any more miracles with his hand. So that's why they pierced him in his hand or in his wrist. But that lets me know, too, that when you said the king's heart is in the power is in his hand. But then it lets me know that when David played the harp, David played the harp with his hand. That lets me know that the power is in our hand. What are we doing with it?
It's in our hand.
Are we misusing this power, or are we using this power that God has given us and the authority that he's given us for his glory? Because we're supposed to be a reflection of God himself. And what we're talking about for those that are listening, marriage, relationships, singleness is a ministry. All of it's a ministry. And everything you do, the Bible says, do as unto the Lord. So I must put myself in position. And what does that mean? I must have the fruit, which is singular, fruit of the Spirit. But then, Daryl, it's a lot of suffering, but check this out. But then you got to understand that the fruit of the Spirit is on the inside, and the soul is the next level, and then the body. If I'm connected to the fruit of the Spirit, and then my soul adheres to the fruit of the Spirit, then my body will follow. But if I'm doing the opposite of that, in other words, if my body is leading my soul, then my spirit is going to be in trouble, because my body is being influenced by the world. And Christ works in the opposite direction. And so we as men, must get to the place where we say, you know what, man? It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be Christ-like. It's okay to love. And it's okay to make sacrifices. Because I have to die to a lot of things that I was taught as a child. But see, we don't want to die. It's what I say, go. Nah, bro, you got to lead by example. I mean, this is a powerful topic, man.
And what you say will go as you lead by example. It'll inevitably happen. And you know, and you're right.
This is powerful, Daryl. I mean, and this is what a lot of young men need to learn. Man, we need to stop teaching these boys, listen, man, do this and do that. Man, you got to be hard. No, bro, you got to love. And teach them what real love is.
You got to love.
And stop giving them this false sense of love, and stop dressing them in the mannequins of society, but dress them in the armor of God. Ooh, God, this thing is, man, this is good.
That's right. Man, yeah, this is good. We might have to shut this thing down for that phone burn up again. But no, this is good. So happy life, happy wife. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, that's a myth. And ladies, if you're listening, because I know you are, we have a large female fan base, and we love that. We appreciate that, because we know y'all like to hear a male perspective, especially a godly man's perspective. Understand this, you know, if you're with someone, or you're looking at be with someone or whatever, you know, find ways to please that man. I mean, I cannot tell you not to do that as a man. You need to find ways to please that man. Yeah, but he needs to stop. Stop with what somebody need to do. Because then ain't nobody gonna get nothing done here. But when we start to serve others and start to please others, then things always, I can't say always, but typically they turn our way. When I please my wife, even if she may be in the wrong, and when I serve her, then God has a way of turning that heart, and then things always seem to come back my way. And so we got to look at it from that perspective. And ladies, also too, and men, I should say men and ladies, but especially ladies. So if you're listening, what Waymon also said there is, because we live in a world. I'm sorry, there's guys that don't even want to marry. They don't want to have a serious relationship. They just really want you as a piece of meat. And unless you offer it, then you're gonna get what you get.
That's right.
But you ain't gonna have much to get, because he's gonna be gone. So understand this part too. Know who you are by yourself.
Yes.
I know some of you y'all might not want to hear that, but you're not gonna get any pleasure or joy chasing people that it's not
right,
because you're just throwing yourself away. At the end of the day, happy wife, happy life, that's a myth. But if we can find ways to serve others, I don't care who they are, serve family members, serve men, women, serve people, and bring pleasure and peace to other people. If we do that every day in all of our relationships, I think we'll be happy overall. You won't be in-laws fighting and cousins fighting. No, you're gonna have peace everywhere you go.
That's right.
That whole thing's gonna be right.
That's right.
Well, you know what, Waymon? We can probably go another 4 hours on this one, so I better shut this one down. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, definitely. So this is episode 99. Celebrate with us next week on our 100th episode. Check out that special broadcast podcast. Go to ourspirit.online. Go to man2man360.com. man2man360.com. You're going to see some updates there as well. And we are super excited about what the future has in store. And also with Waymon Daniels at Level Up Podcast. He's got some special, awesome things. Oh, but just tell the audience some quick things you got going on and where they can find you and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I have a Level Up Podcast, which believes in encouraging and building up people to let them know that they can succeed. I also am a professional speaker with Open Mic Communications, a leadership strategist. You can give me a call at 585-524-9997, 585-524-9997, and we can go into more in-depths about relationships and other things of that nature. So just give me a call. I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Perfect. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wrap up at this point, but definitely check out the podcast, share the podcast, go to the site, both man2man360.com and ourspirit.online next week for the 100th episode. We are super excited, and we're out.
This episode of Man2Man360 is a wrap, but you can check us out next week wherever you get your podcasts and listen on demand to earlier or exclusive content. Visit us at man2man360.com. That's man2man360.com. Then tune in live every Thursday at 8 p.m., Saturday 8 a.m., and Tuesday at noon at ourspirit.online.